I come to the floor to urge my colleagues to do everything we can to ensure that Obamacare is delayed, guaranteeing the least harmful path forward for patients, providers, and for taxpayers. We all have stories from our home state that highlight what many of us have said was going to happen when the federal government began its takeover of the nation's health care system. Because of Obamacare, a constituent of mine in Arizona who owns a number of restaurants is eliminating the entry-level job of busboy because he can no longer afford to employ busboys and pay the new health care expenses for his other employees. Eliminating a restaurant-wide position, that's a decision that had to be made because of Obamacare. Another Arizonan, Michael Monty, who runs a historic restaurant in Tempe, was recently featured in a national news story because he's being forced to decide between offering health care insurance to his employees working more than 30 hours a week or paying the penalty from the federal government. Again, it's likely that employees will be laid off or not hired. He doesn't want to cut back his employees' hours. That doesn't help his business, and I'm sure it doesn't help his employees. But like other business owners, he doesn't have any other option. Sadly, these stories are not isolated incidents. Companies like Trader Joe's and Home Depot have recently announced that they will end health benefit for part-time workers, and those employees will be directed to the new insurance marketplaces. SeaWorld announced that it will be cutting back employees' hours as well. UPS will no longer cover health insurance for some 15,000 employees' spouses. Just when we need a full-bore, full-time economy, America is becoming a part-time economy. These are the effects of Obamacare. I believe that it's helpful to have this debate come sharply into focus, as it has been over the past 24 hours. Like many of my colleagues, I've opposed Obamacare from the beginning. I think every Republican in the House and the Senate has done so. I voted to do away with this legislation more than 30 times. Earlier this month, I introduced S. 1490, a bill that would delay by 1 year all provisions of the Affordable Care Act that are supposed to take effect on January 1, 2014 or later. I believe we all know that the President has already decided to delay the employer mandate. Doesn't it make sense to delay the rest as well? How can you tell individuals there's still a mandate for you to buy insurance, but to tell employers you're going to get a year break? As lawmakers, we have a responsibility to our constituents. We have to do everything we can to make sure that this train wreck of a law doesn't continue to wreak havoc. Mr. President, as we continue to discuss the need to delay this onerous law, I hope that senators will join me in devoting the same time and energy to fix the fiscal problems facing the country. In this debate, we're told that we have two choices. We have a continuing resolution with a price tag of $986 billion. That's about $20 billion more than the law allows, or we risk a government shutdown. It's disingenuous, I believe, to tell our constituents that these are the only two choices, a shutdown or a CR that busts our budget limits. The majority leader is going to amend the CR to get what he wants. Shouldn't other members be afforded the opportunity to offer amendments as well? Wasn't this the promise the majority leader made to the Senate when we made changes in January? The Senate should be given the opportunity to vote on a continuing resolution that respects the Budget Control Act and funds the government at the $967 billion level for the next year. Passing a bill above that limit, above the limit that's set by law, will cause a second round of sequester cuts in January. Why would we do this? Lurching from fiscal crisis to fiscal crisis is no way to run a country. Sadly, you can say what you want about it, but the Budget Control Act has provided us, at least with meaningful cuts in spending that we wouldn't make otherwise. Just last week, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office reported that our debt is on track to total 100% of our nation's output in just 25 years. Interest on our national debt will consume 14% of our annual budget in just 10 years' time, up from just 6% today. Those projections demand that we take a harder look on our spending, and at the very least, we should be allowed to vote on a fiscally responsible continuing resolution that meets the 967 budget threshold. Mr. President, I yield the floor.